the divorce papers arrived, and that's when I started getting the texts. They weren't from my husband, and they definitely weren't friendly. Someone knew my secret, and they were hellbent on making me pay. This wasn't just heartbreak, now it was a freaking nightmare. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who'd get, well, butterflies. But there I was, in the stupid produce aisle, and some guy brushes my hand reaching for the cilantro. Dumb, right? Cilantro, of all things. But I looked up, and the way his eyes kinda crinkled at the corners, the little smirk. Damn it, I should have just grabbed the stupid herb and walked away. Instead, I couldn't stop thinking about him all afternoon. Me, of all people. John's a good man, and I felt terrible as I made his favorite pot roast. Like a traitor, cooking dinner for someone I'd only just betrayed in my head. It was ridiculous. Then, that night, it gets even weirder. My phone buzzes. It's a message from some work event group for a project I'm barely on. And guess whose name I see? Mr. Cilantro. Well, his real name, but Cilantro Guy is what I've been calling him in my head. There's an open invite to some networking thing on Friday, and for stupid reasons, my finger hovers over the yes button. I don't even remember if I hit it or not until I'm lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Friday comes, and there's a whole part of me screaming not to go, that it's a terrible idea. But then there's this other little voice whispering, what harm could it do? It's been so long since I felt that zing excitement, is that what you even call it? Whatever it is, I get dressed and practically run out the door. At this event, in this crowded room, our eyes meet. Just like a freaking cliché. My heart does that stupid thudding thing, and I swear, for a minute, everyone around us disappears. We talk, and oh God, we have stuff in common. Not just surface level stuff, but real things, the kind of things I haven't talked about with John in forever. The chemistry, whatever the hell that is buzzing between us. It all ends too soon. He's walking me to my car, and I'm already wishing it wasn't over. Under those city lights, it's electric. It feels wrong, but when I laugh at his stupid joke, it feels so damn good. He leans in, but then steps back, a flicker of something in his eyes. I guess even Cilantro Guy has a limit for a first meeting. I wake up and swear at my phone. It's barely 6:30, and my brain already feels like a scrambled mess. John snores softly beside me, and for a second, there's this horrible, hollow feeling in my chest. Later, as I'm pouring coffee, I tell myself I'm insane. This whole thing with Cilantro Guy, it's gotta stop. But then, of course, my phone buzzes with one of his dumb jokes, and I feel that damn flutter again. I find myself telling my best friend, Sarah, over lunch. It's just coffee, I say. Even as I'm saying it, I know I'm lying. We meet almost every afternoon. Coffee that stretches into long drives with the windows down and music just a little too loud. Or we walk aimlessly around the park, the kind of rambling conversations that remind me what it's like to be truly heard. At night, I can't seem to sleep. John touching me isn't thrilling, it's almost suffocating. And stupid, traitorous me keeps wondering how Cilantro Guy would touch me, what he'd say after. My phone vibrates under my pillow, and I swear my heart jumps clean out of my ribs. It's a text. Thinking of you. Simple as that, but it lights up my insides. He talks, more and more, about our shared dreams. Things John and I used to say, but somewhere along the way, they got lost. Cilantro Guy talks about a fresh start, a life unburdened by monotony. It's both thrilling and terrifying. Then, John gets me a necklace for my birthday. It's pretty, but generic. John's always been more practical than romantic, but holding that necklace, I can't help hearing that voice in my head. You deserve a life that crackles, babe. It's the nudge I don't know I'm waiting for. The excuse comes easy, a work conference in Chicago. John even helps me pack, kissing me goodbye all normal-like. It's messed up. I feel like I'm splitting in two. But in the tiny, generic hotel room, that night, when a text from Cilantro Guy makes me blush in the dark, I know there's no going back. Chicago was a blur. Meetings I barely remember. Nights spent wide awake staring out hotel windows so bright they blotted out the stars. Each ding of my phone felt like a fire alarm in my soul. Coming home should have been a relief, but the house, John, everything felt off. Heavy. I noticed things I hadn't before. The tiny cracks in the ceiling, the faint smell of mildew from the bathroom. They felt like accusations, reflections of this broken mess inside me. Even brushing past John, his hand on my waist at dinner, made me flinch. Every time he looked at me, those kind, trusting eyes, all I could picture was Cilantro Guy's smirk and the way he tasted of stolen cigarettes. The lies pile up. I make excuses not to see Sarah, knowing she'd clock something's change. She always has, ever since we were kids. You're different, she texts one evening. It hangs in the air. Accusatory, worried, but also, is there a tiny note of envy in there? John wants to do a family hike, something we used to love. My brother, Mark, tags along too. He's always had that way of reading me, of knowing when something's wrong, even when I'm faking my best smile. I trail behind, pretending to admire wildflowers, but mostly trying to avoid his sharp eyes. My stupid phone is my downfall. I leave it open on the kitchen counter, rushing out to answer a work call. When I come back, there's a text right there, front and center. Can't wait to see you tomorrow, babe. Below it, John's face is a mask, shocked, hurt, and something I can't quite place. It might be the first flicker of anger. The silence stretches out. I want to scream, apologize, beg, but it all just chokes in my throat. It's a relief, in a horrifying way, when the silence finally breaks. But it's not what I expect. His voice isn't loud. In fact, it's dangerously quiet. Was it worth it? He asks, and it isn't a question about Cilantro Guy or the stupid texts. It's about us, about years of building a life together, and whether I just threw it all away. Then it all explodes. My tears, John's fury, my pathetic excuses that sound hollow even to my own ears. A vase, one with stupid roses John bought me last week, smashes to the floor. It's a relief in the chaos, a tangible breaking to match the one inside me. He doesn't yell. He walks out, slamming the door with a finality more terrifying than any scream could be. My fingers find Sarah's number on autopilot. I sob, a messy, incoherent string of apologies, self-hatred, and a desperate plea for her to fix it somehow. Sarah, always the steady one, tries. She listens, she offers tired cliches, but even I can hear the judgment straining through her words. Days blur together. Mom and Dad arrive, their faces a tightrope walk between worry and barely contained disappointment. They try to mother me, but their well-meaning fussing only pushes me further inside myself. John's side of the bed stays cold. Silence hangs over the house like a poisonous fog. Sleep won't come, or, worse, it comes in fits, each dream replaying the look on John's face the moment he saw that text. That's when Cilantro Guy's whispers haunt me too, now tainted with guilt. The promise of escape, of a fresh start, it all seems like a cruel lie. Mark doesn't let me hide. He corners me in the kitchen, concern and anger warring on his face. What the hell were you thinking, he says. There's no accusation in his voice, only confusion and hurt, and I don't have an answer that won't make it worse. The feel of John's hand on the doorknob sends a spike of panic through me. He walks in, looking smaller, broken in a way that makes me want to weep more. We circle each other like wary animals, every word loaded with unspoken things. I never thought you were capable of this, he whispers one night, and his quiet hurt cuts me deeper than any angry shout. It echoes in my ears the next morning as I walk into work. Maybe it's my imagination, but the sideways glances, the hurried whispers in the hallways, they burn my skin. Sarah suggests a weekend away, a fresh start. But the idea makes me want to scream. Even at the park, across the city, a man with similar shoulders, the same shade of brown hair, makes me jolt. Everything feels tainted, reminders of my betrayal lurking around every corner. I reach out to a therapist. God knows, I need someone who won't sugarcoat it and call this mess a Euro mistake. She's kind, but her questions force me to look at the ugly parts hidden deep inside, the restlessness and the dissatisfaction that festered into something monstrous. There's a cruel punchline to my misery, an email alert about Cilantro Guy's company. It was all smoke and mirrors, a big, fat fraud. He talks in headlines about bold moves and disruption, and suddenly it all sounds as empty as the promises he whispered into my hair. The news crashes into me like a wave, leaving me gasping for air. My escape plan, built on stupid fantasies, shatters. All I have now is this awful reality, this fallout, and the hard work of figuring out who I am after wrecking everything I held dear. The envelope sits on the kitchen table like a ticking bomb. When I finally work up the nerve to tear it open, the words, "Notice of dissolution," hit me like a physical blow. No cheerful talks, no agonizing fights, just this stark statement of finality. It's worse than I imagined. His lawyer is €1 what I expected. Ruthless. She picks through my life with cold efficiency, painting a picture of me as unstable, reckless. I know I did a terrible thing, but hearing it listed out, point by ugly point, makes me want to disappear. The settlement talks are brutal, each concession feeling like I'm losing part of what I built with John. Then there's the fight for the kids. Lawyer speak clashes with the raw ache in my heart every time they walk out the door with John. I see them, eyes a little lost, smiles strained. Did I shatter their trust too? Each night, I stare at their empty beds, drowning in a guilt deeper than any ocean. Mom takes my side, offering a shoulder to cry on in fierce loyalty. Dad, it's different. His disappointment hangs heavy in every clipped conversation. We used to be able to talk about anything, now there's just this chasm between us. Mark can barely look at me anymore. He's polite, distant, like I'm someone he used to know but doesn't like very much. Each tense exchange leaves me feeling like I shattered one of the only constants in my broken world. He was always my fierce protector, and now, I've lost that too. Leaving the courtroom that day feels like walking out of my own skin. The word, final, hangs in the air like a lead weight. My life, the before of it all, is suddenly something I view through a shattered lens. There's no going back to who I was. The new apartment is small, the kind of place you live in when you're starting over, whether you want to be or not. Each box I unpack feels heavy with what I've lost. John's old college jersey, the kids' mismatched artwork. Stupid things that now bring a lump to my throat. Nights are the worst. The silence stretches out, interrupted only by the creak of pipes and my own traitorous thoughts. Sarah's the one who pulls me out of the worst of it. Coffee dates. Long walks where I can spill all the ugliness, even the parts one hate myself for. But there's this distance now, a flicker in her eyes. She still cares, but it's different. Damaged goods, that's what I am. It's brutal starting a new job amidst the fallout. I catch the whispers, the sidelong glances. They see me, and they see the word, cheater, stamped on my forehead. Each laugh, each seemingly innocent question, feels like a landline waiting to go off. Then one day, I stumble into a dusty little bookshop tucked away on a side street. An old book of poetry catches my eye, and a single line leaps out. The wound is the place where the light enters you. It sounds so damn cheesy, but there's a flicker, a tiny pinprick of something that isn't despair. Maybe ruin isn't the end. Maybe, just maybe, it can be the start of something I don't even recognize yet. One Saturday, driven by a desperation to do something, anything, I end up at a soup kitchen. It's awkward and messy, and I keep dropping things. But then, amidst the chaos, this tiny old woman named Edith starts bossing me around, her voice sharp with humor. She's lost a husband, raised hellish kids, and makes it clear my little meltdown is nothing compared to the stuff she's seen. Somehow, that makes me want to prove myself to her. The kids come for the weekend, quieter than usual, big eyes studying my new place. We make pancakes, their laughter more hesitant. I don't try to explain, they're too young for the truth. But I hold them a little tighter, vowing silently to be the best mom I can, even if it means starting from the bottom. A sleepless night leaves me staring at John's old side of the bed. It all floods back, the lies, the betrayal. Then, in a surge of clarity, I grab a notebook and start to write. Not an apology, that feels too easy. But an honest accounting of my own mess, of the hurt I caused. I don't mail the letter, but laying those words out feels like finally exhaling the poison I've been holding in. I see him, of all places, on a run through the park. Cilantro guy. Not the cocky guy the first remember, but thinner, some of the light gone from his eyes. It's a jolt of shame, yes, but there's also a euro pity? Disgust? I'm not sure. All I know is that the thrill, that spark, is utterly gone. Back in my apartment, I start scrolling through fitness classes out of a desperate need to feel something other than this relentless ache. One catches my eye. Some hardcore boxing workout. It sounds brutal, which is entirely the point. The next morning, I walk into the gym, ready to hit something, even if it's just myself. My heart does the stupid little lurch when Sarah casually mentions that John's seen someone new. Jealousy, hot and unexpected, flares before I can smother it. But then I remember. That possessiveness, the feeling of him being the euro mine. It's part of what led me down this path in the first place. I swallow hard, congratulate her, and mean it as best I can. Later that week, a text pops up from an unexpected number. Mark. Coffee? If, you want to. It's short, awkward, exactly how my brother would try to mend something. But that he even reached out at all feels like a victory. Our meeting is stiff, full of apologies and half-said things, but also a flicker of the old connection we used to have. Out of the blue, Mrs. Walsh, my 8th grade history teacher, sends me a message. The grapevine, it seems, runs strong. The words sting, but even more so, there's a surprising note of kindness. We all make mistakes, she writes. Sometimes the worst ones force us to become people we never knew we could be. It's an odd thing, finding comfort from someone I haven't thought about in years. Time bleeds by, birthdays, a harsh winter, my first work trip without the old pit of guilt hanging over me. The milestones sting and soothe at the same time. I still miss the comfort of what I knew, but I feel myself rebuilding piece by piece, stronger in the broken places. Then, there he is. At a crowded coffee shop, cilantro guy looks almost ordinary. There's no surge of anything, not anger, not longing. Mostly just the flat realization of how completely unimportant he's become. Maybe that's not a dramatic ending, but it's powerful in its own way. This isn't about closure, it's about knowing I won't unravel again. The new guy at work, let's call him Tom, he's a euro nice. Normal, funny without being flashy. He asks me out for coffee, and I hesitate so long he almost laughs. But then, why not? It's not a date, but maybe it could be someday. The thought of dipping a toe back in those waters is both terrifying and weirdly exciting. He talks about restoring classic cars, his eyes lighting up with a passion that has nothing to do with me, and that feels refreshing in its own way. Mom calls, her voice tentative. We don't talk about it, not the whole mess. Instead, we talk about her garden, the kids growing too fast, the silly things they say. Stuff that used to be our normal rhythm. It's stilted, but it's a start. Later, when Dad calls, it's less awkward. His words stumble, but there's a gruff apology, a quiet acknowledgement of the hurt I cause. We don't magically rewind, but a new foundation, fragile but hopeful, is laid. It's a relief, like a weight I hadn't realized I was still carrying has been lifted a tiny bit. Sarah's friendship feels deeper now. She's seen me at my worst, and the fact that she's still here isn't just loyalty, it's love, the kind I don't take lightly anymore. I remember nights on her couch, tears streaming down my face, the way she held me without judgment. But there's laughter now too. One night, over too many glasses of wine, we finally laugh about how stupid the whole cilantro bag thing was, a shared secret that binds us even closer. The office is, well, better. I'll never be one of the girls again, not the bubbly, carefree one. But I see them, those sidelong looks, starting to shift into something that might resemble grudging respect. They witness me work harder than I ever have, determined to prove myself not as some sorry excuse, but as the damn good accountant I actually am. There's satisfaction in that, in knowing I haven't just crumbled under the scrutiny. One morning, I really look at myself in the mirror. Not the girl who fell for a cheap line, not the wife who broke a vow. There's still a woman with too many regrets, yes, but also a hard-won strength, a kind of quiet resilience I didn't know I could possess. Looking out the window, I see the city I thought I knew, the one that felt safe and familiar. It's changed for me, but so have I. It's not the happily ever after I always imagined.